Hi everyone!
Yo!
How are you doing? How are you today? La la. So we're back with another Roger Moore movie.
This is the most competent Roger Moore movie we've seen.
Which is hilarious because it's just plagiarizing other movies.
Yeah, well that's kind of, we talked about Bond being very reactionary. This one, it seems like it's mostly reactionary to itself.
Yeah,
because there's a bunch of like set piece moments that are just like things from the Connery movies but done slightly differently.
So yeah, it also is interesting because it leans into the Cold War. You know,
yeah.
You get like
getting back to that old chestnut.
We get to the whole I am a Russian spy thing with the lead Bond girl, and I guess like the Bond girl's slightly better, but I don't know. We have a 10-minute sequence where she can't figure out how to drive a car. You know, I'm not necessarily holding out too much faith.
Yeah, I mean, she has a giant like superhuman man holding onto the back of the car, which I think is why she struggles so much.
Yeah, I guess.
Also, her codename is Triple X, and she does not look a thing like Vin Diesel to me.
But yeah, I don't know. She's more active, that's for sure. But I'm not necessarily sure if I like her as much or even close to like Pussy Galore. You know what I mean?
I know. This. I feel like this movie's like the bell curve. Like, it's not like the last movies were like a downward slope, and this one's. It's coming out of the slope, but it's not quite back up yet.
Yeah, it's important to talk about this one, though, because it has the second most iconic scene behind I did not come to... I ask you to die, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
It has the scene where he yeets over the cliff and then, opens the British Imperial flag, and then you just hear, "My country, 'tis of thee."
I feel like one of those things didn't actually...
What are you talking about?
And apparently
Prince Charles like stood in like Orson Welles craft at like the Union Jack parachute, which I'm like, I feel like James Bond has done shit like this up until then. But then again, I'm not a British person, so maybe I'm just not understanding British pride.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, so that's one of the most iconic scenes in the franchise.
Yeah. Apparently.
As voted on by James Bond fans who still are divided on if Kissy and James Bond's marriage is legitimate or not.
That's where we get James Bond Jr.
Oh my God, wow. Wait, I thought he was an uncle.
Yeah, let's not quibble over semantics.
Yeah, let's not get into technicalities here. But yeah, so this film, I think, well, the reason I don't know if I agree that this is a bell curve film, because this film feels like it's just doing whatever the fuck it needs to because movie, and it feels like like that Lilo and Stitch ad for like the Disney movies where Stitch is just like going into all these different movies. Yeah. That's what this movie feels like. It feels like 7 different movies.
Yeah. But only one of those movies is offensive, though.
They go to Egypt and they go see the pyramids, and like they're just running around the pyramids, and it's like, what? And then oh my god, so I love Lawrence of Arabia, right? And so like I'm starting to notice some visual references, and I'm like, interesting. This is a very interesting decision. Then they just dead ass rip the Lawrence of Arabia soundtrack, and Evelyn was like, Evelyn was like in agreement, but like, the demeanor of how much is it impersonating Lawrence of Arabia though? And then they pulled up the soundtrack, and we were both like, what? The soundtrack in this one was horrendous.
Oh yeah, because there's like 7 different. It's like 4 to 5 different people scored this movie, and they all had drastically different ideas about what kind of movie it was.
Well, and not only is the soundtrack like really all over the place, like we're talking about that when the last movie literally had a slide whistle to punctuate James Bond going over a...
Well, because like you have the Lawrence of Arabia music, but then the intro music is like a 70s sitcom.
Yeah, and then there's like a lot of like New York rom-com in the 70s music.
Yeah.
And then like they're fighting at the end, and there's like a funky soundtrack.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is going on?
kind of a mess.
It's a little bit all over the place, and by a little bit I mean a lot.
Yeah. We do get Ega himself. We get Richard Kiel as Jaws, who is like a pretty iconic Bond villain,
which is really funny though, because they were looking at having, because they weren't sure who was going to direct this one, and they were looking at Steven Spielberg, I believe I read in my research, and Steven Spielberg couldn't do it because he was in post-production for Jaws. So I want to say that they threw in a shark and threw in this character named Jaws to be like, this could have been us, Steven.
This is the angsty teenage phase.
Yeah!
Crying over the boy they lost out on.
This could have been us.
Imagine if Steven Spielberg directed a Bond movie, especially at that formative point in his career.
I would have hated that, I think.
Would he have become the Steven Spielberg we know today, or would he have become, a very different person?
Oh my god, that's a fair point. Honestly. Revision history. Revisionist history.
What else? This has, one of my favorite Bond cars. The Lotus S Spirit, which is, one of the most boxy, late 70s, early 80s cars in the world. It looks exactly
like the Tesla truck.
It does.
Just like a mini version of the Tesla truck. And you know what?
And it turns into a submarine because it's literally the Mach 5 from...
Yeah, and then the other thing is, this one, even more so than the last, leans into British imperialism and colonialism. Because you have settings like, Egypt, and then, the Russian thing, and, I don't know, it's just really leaning into that. I also, this was one of the first times we talked about this, but, the Bond films have this really weird fascination with water and underwater photography, and I don't know if it's, an actual, legitimate aesthetic decision, or if it's, wow, we have a fucking excellent underwater camera, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of late for that, because, they've had this underwater camera for a while.
That's a fair point. With Thunderball?
Yeah.
Thunderball.
But again, I feel like that goes back to the reactionary thing where they're what did the past Bond movies do that people liked, and let's just do that again. So they're we have an underwater sequence, we have a base that looks like the base from You Only Live Twice. We have this setup with a Russian agent and a fight on a train from Russia with Love had. We have a skiing scene on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
It's just it really feels like they're throwing every single thing they can think of at the wall so that they can see what's going to work.
Yeah.
And it's a lot.
Yeah, and yeah. This isn't a good Bond movie by any stretch of the imagination.
But at least it's not
it's
being fucking racist and weird.
Yeah.
This time.
That's where we're at right now. My standards have lowered so much that this film was able to impress me.
Yeah, so that's The Spy Who Loved Me. I don't really have anything else to say about it, honestly. Because I kind of just blacked out half the time because I was so confused and bored.
The bad guy wants to set up the city from BioShock, which is interesting.
That's right. Yeah, and he's he feeds people to the sharks.
Yeah.
To the sharks.
Lots of sharks in this movie.
The sharks. But yeah. So, Evelyn, you got any other thoughts about The Spy Who Loved Me?
Yeah, it's weird. This is one, with the skiing and with the parachute and with the title, this is one that draws a lot of parodies, which is interesting.
Yeah, which makes sense because it feels like a whole big fucking parody.
Yeah, I guess. But
they have 3 composers listed. Wait. They have 3 composers listed.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Anyway, oh wait, no, just kidding. Composed by one dude.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not great, but it's at least I don't know. We're getting back to the bad relationship thing where I'm holding out hope. And you're treated bad, but then one good thing happens, and you're oh, maybe it'll be better.
Maybe it'll be better. And honestly, also, to talk some of the production side to give context to the fucking all over the placeness. There was a producer left during this movie.
Oh.
It was Saltzman. He had to sell half the estate.
Ooh,
and like we said earlier, there were directing problems, you know what I mean? So, like, they couldn't find a director. I know they casted the Bond girl 4 days before production. So, like, you know, it kind of feels like a mad scramble. And also, you know, just a note, too. Yeah. And then just a note, too, like, I believe that there was a really long break between...
Yeah, what year was this?
1 second. There was I believe there was a break between The Last Man with the Golden Gun and this one. Let me check that, though. Yes, there were problems because of the selling of the stake of half of the Bond franchise. There was legal problems with the Bond franchise that delayed production of Spy Who Loved Me for 3 years. So it was the longest break in the series up until License to Kill and GoldenEye.
Is that yeah? And
that could explain some of the fuckery that was all over the place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To not give the film a very hard time with that, Yeah,
like we said, it's the least terrible Roger Moore film we've seen so far.
It's the least terrible Roger Moore film. It was still all over the place. But there are a lot of production issues to kind of explain why.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah.
Yeah.
That's The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah. And what could we possibly do to, like, you know, the Bond series is pretty lost. Where could we possibly go from here that would really kick things off again?
Space. So next we're going to the moon. Always watch the skies. Bye, everyone.
Bye.